My name is Flannery. I'm the chair of the Younger Members Committee. So I'm just going to provide you an overview of our committee, the work that we do, our history and our objectives. Then Brendan is going to follow. He's the vice chair. And then there's Anna Nichols. She's the current SADSI rep. She's a trainee like yourselves. And she's going to talk about her involvement and what she feels she gets out of being involved in the committee and the Law Society. So I'm just going to try and keep it not too long. So there's more than myself and Brendan and Anna on the committee. So you can see all of our members there and all of our names are listed out. So if you want to add us on LinkedIn or anything like that, that's our name. And you'll be able to keep an eye on our events. And our secretary is Michelle Nolan. So every committee of the Law Society has a secretary that you can contact if you ever have any questions. So Michelle is our secretary, but when you become members, i.e. when you get your practicing certificates, you'll be able to access the solicitors area of the website and you'll be able to contact all of the committees in the Law Society directly yourselves. So just a little bit about our committee. We were re-established in 2015 and we represent up to 7 years PQE. We're a non-standing committee, so that means we don't perform any regulatory functions. An example of a committee that might do something like that would be like money laundering or something like that where legislation applies. But we represent members from, I suppose, 0 to 7 years PQE, so from when you first qualify up to 7 years. What we look at is issues affecting younger members, and I suppose we represent younger members' interests in the Law Society. So we would liaise regularly with career support because issues affecting younger members are usually career related. We would work with the environmental task force, on firms going greener, and we would have ideas to contribute, technology committee, employment law, practice support task force. But we also look at like health and well-being and everything like that because, stress would be a high factor. So when you qualify, your first few years can be quite stressful. So we would do a lot of events around stress also and stress management. But Brendan's going to go into that a little bit more after me. So the next slide then, I'm just going to give you a quick whistle-stop tour on the Law Society. So how the Law Society is represented is that we have the president at the moment. So our current president is James Cahill. So how the president becomes president is the number of years that they spend on council. So currently James Cahill is the president, as I said. He's been 18 years in council. So that's a very long time, and that means it's quite fair as well, as regards men and women being president. It's related to how many years they've been on the council. So the council itself then has a few members, and many of them, 31 of those are elected every year. So that when you qualify, ballots will be sent out to you around September, October. You'll be voting and you can vote for your council. So your council is elected every year. 4 people represent the provinces. There's 13 extraordinary members. So that'll be like the DSBA, Northern Ireland would have 5. Southern Law Association has 3. So they're elected and you're on the council for 2 years. And then you have to run for election again generally, especially for 31 ordinary members. So then down below, then there's committees. So that's where we fill in. So there's 22 committees altogether in the Law Society, and they range from alternative dispute resolution, you've got employment, litigation, money laundering, education, business, GDPR, and then there's the Younger Members Committee. So we would, all those committees, how to get involved really is just whether you have a particular interest in an area, you might reach out to the relevant committee. But sometimes it can be difficult to get on a committee, because they might have enough numbers and everything like that. But, as time goes on, you might have interest in getting involved, or you can get in touch with us, which Anna will be talking to you about afterwards. Then after that, then you have task forces. So basically task forces are established if there's very important issues like, bank charges and deposits, environment, practice support task force, anything that's kind of relevant to the profession at a particular time, a task force might be nominated to examine that. So that's really about the Law Society. I think as a trainee, you don't really know how it all works. And all of the people working between the president, the council and the committees, it's all voluntary. nobody's getting paid. Everybody's doing this for your interests. So, you know, it's a lot of man hours is put into shaping the future of the profession and to do what we can. So I think that's me finished. So I'm going to lead you over to Brendan, who is going to talk about all the exciting projects we've been doing, and if you have any questions as well, please put them into the chat function. And if everyone can keep their mics on silent, just so that it can, you know, Brendan can speak as well. So Brendan.
Great, thanks so much, Avril, and delighted to meet you all virtually today and see so many familiar faces. I think I've met quite a few of you over the years in various guises. It's a shame we're not doing this in person, but I'm sure we'll have opportunities to meet physically over the next couple of years, all going well. So as Avril mentioned, I'm vice chair of the Younger Members Committee. I'm an associate in ANA Goodbody Solicitors on the financial regulation team, and I've been involved with the Younger Members Committee for about 4.5 years or so. It's very much a committee where the value you get out of it, it far exceeds the amount of time and effort you put into it. And over the last 4 years, I've personally been involved in, and I've been delighted to be involved in for policy formation, some very exciting projects and events, which we'll come to in a second. And also I've had the opportunity to expand my professional network, both in Ireland and also internationally. And I wouldn't say that I was able to do that if it wasn't for the Younger Members Committee. At the outset, before I speak to the events and projects, I think one thing to emphasise, and Avril touched upon it, is that this is still a very young committee. So we were re-established 6 years ago, 5.5 to 6 years ago. But I think it'd be fair to say it's only now we're beginning to benefit from the amount of time and effort that went in the initial few years to building the structures and building out our network with colleagues in other law society committees, for example. Because now we're able to run projects, run events, and allow committee members come up with ideas and just run with those ideas. Because we have enough people on the committee now, although we're always looking for new members, so feel free to get involved in years to come. So we're in a very exciting phase of growth at the moment. So just looking at what you can see on screen here, and we'll just go clockwise from A through to E. I think just focusing initially on the professional bodies that we've been getting involved in, I think to be fair to say that in the last 6 to 12 months in particular, there's been a real uptick in the number of task forces and different committees who've been approaching us for our input on very important topics, which I'll touch on in a second. But it would be remiss of us not to mention the incredible support that Career Support Services has been to the committee over the years, and I'll touch upon some of the projects we co-host with them shortly. But they've been a real champion for us in rolling out different ideas and different projects. And hopefully you've seen some of that over the last couple of years. Two of our members, that's Cian Moriarty, Michael Quinlan, have also been involved in the Law School Ambassador Programme. So some of you might have come across Cian and Michael over the past 6 months. We were also in recent weeks asked to contribute to a remote courts task force, which is looking at the future of litigation and court practice in Ireland, and that's something which was really exciting to be involved in because it's a very tangible output. You're talking about how can you run a trial in years to come. Other task forces which we've been invited to contribute to include the Environmental and Sustainability Task Force and the Gender Equality, Diversity, Inclusion Task Force, which Avril touched upon at the start. These are really important functions and task forces within the Law Society, looking at the future of the profession, and it's been really exciting to be part of those conversations. In recent weeks, myself and Avril have also been invited to contribute to an ongoing review, which has been conducted by the LSRA on access to the profession, and specifically barriers on entry. And we've been having conversations with peers about what kind of structures are in place which are preventing people from becoming trainee solicitors or devil barristers. And why is an option, a legal career, not an option for a lot of people, or at least they think it's not an option, and try to break down those barriers. So I think you'll see more coming out from that review in the coming months, and I think ultimately there will be some recommendations going to the Minister for Justice in Q4. So there you might see some of the output at that stage. In a similar vein, moving up to the networking theme, we've spent a lot of time this year in developing our international reach. So we've been developing links with the American Young Bar Association, the Canadian Young Bar Association, and the European Young Lawyers Association. And what does that mean in practice? Well, last week, for example, Avril was able to join the spring conference, which has been hosted by the ABA. This afternoon, 5 of us have been invited to attend another event, which has been hosted by the ABA. And next month, there's a virtual spring conference being hosted by the European Young Bar Association, which we've been asked to contribute to as well. So that's really exciting, and that's going to help us develop links with those international bodies. And hopefully in 12 months' time, we'll be able to go to Glasgow for the 2022 conference as well. And I think the long-term aim is that we're not just talking about committee members, but that access to these kind of events will be opened up to younger and junior solicitors in due time. Closer to home, we've also been working with the Scottish Young Lawyers Association and the Junior Lawyers Division of the English and Welsh Law Society. They're well-established organisations, very, very defined structures, and we've been learning a lot from them. But we're also co-hosting events with them, hopefully, over the next 18 months. And myself and Avril made our podcast debut last evening with the English and Welsh Junior Lawyers Division. So that should be a dropping, I think, expression on social media in the coming weeks. We're also developing links with the Northern Irish Young Lawyers Association, and then just focus on the Republic of Ireland. We're also co-hosting events with the Young Bar, and we're also hoping to collaborate with other organisations such as the IWLA, Outlaw, and the DSBA as well over the coming months. And we'll come back to one of those events shortly. So I've given you a lot of information about what we're doing, and unfortunately, I'm assuming that it's the first time you're hearing about a lot of these projects, and that's something we're very conscious of, because there's a lot of work and policy formation and events and projects going on in the background, but we need to publicise those, and we're very live to that. So over the last few months, we've been making a conscious effort to have more of a presence in the Society Gazette, which comes out every month, as you know, on the Gazette.ie website as well, and also in the Law School News. So I think in the most recent Law School News, at least 4 or 5 of the committee members were highlighted in various projects, if you look back on that. We're also able to use the online platforms of Twitter and LinkedIn, and I think that's probably the best place for you to look at when you're looking to see what are your common events. We don't have our dedicated channels. We're always using the Law Society official channels, so just keep an eye on the Law Society Twitter handle and LinkedIn pages. So we might just move on to the next page, Avril. So our flagship event every year is an annual conference. This year we're hosting our 5th conference, and some of the previous conference topics are up on screen. Over the years, we've looked at work-life balance, the use of technology, mindfulness, and diversity and inclusion, really, really important topics of conversation. And this year, partially driven by COVID and the new world we live in, we're looking at, well, what does the future hold for the lawyer of tomorrow? So we'll be guessing 15 and 20 years time, what does that landscape look like when you're talking about the use of technology, when you're talking about remote and hybrid working arrangements, and when you're looking at the impact on learning and development for trainees and junior lawyers, and also the opportunities and challenges that come when you're looking at promotion within law firms in particular, or in-house roles, public sector roles, in that new hybrid work arrangement. So that's a really exciting conference. We think we'll be launching our program for the conference and open up registration, we think, in June. So again, just keep an eye on the social media channels for more information. So we might just move on, Avril. So I said at the outset that career support have been a really important partner with us over the last number of years. And unfortunately, because of the COVID pandemic, we weren't able to organize our conference last year. So we said, look, we have an opportunity. We have a lot of energy in the room. We need to do something. So we sat down with the career support and Keith O'Malley in particular, and we came up with this concept of the autumn series, which is a 30-minute in conversation segment every Tuesday night between 7:30 7 over a 10-week period, focused on topics relevant to career support. So some of those topics you can see on screen here, looking at the autumn. And every week we look at different aspects such as developing your CV, developing your personal brand, delivering with impact, how to get across well at an interview, how to move into an in-house role in due time. So these are topics that we think are really relevant to junior lawyers, and we've been really delighted with the feedback we're getting, and I think a lot of you actually would have attended some of these seminars as well, and it went so well that we said we'll do it again. So this year we launched the spring series, along similar lines and topics as the autumn series. We have 2 sessions to go. Next week we have Accessing Your Potential, which has been hosted by Anna, who you'll hear from in a moment, who'll be speaking with Jerry Duffy. Then following that, on the 4th of May, we have a session hosted by Avril, when she'll be speaking with Keith O'Malley, focused on how to find a job in the UK and working abroad. And all of these links you see on screen are hyperlinks, and these will be available on Moodle afterwards if you want to click in and look at the YouTube videos. Okay, Avril, we might just move on. So just to finish up, I just want to give a bit of a plug for an upcoming event. I focused earlier on collaboration and the importance of collaboration to us this year. And we're very excited about an upcoming event we're hosting with the Young Bar next Thursday night. This year, we're hosting three seminars or three sessions and conversation sessions where we meet with famous authors, very notable authors who've written books touching on legal topics. And next week we'll be meeting with Colm Tobin, who'll be in conversation with the Honourable Miss Justice Mayor Rose Geraghty. Again, happy for anyone to join up. We'd love to see you join the event. And that's taking place next Thursday night at 5 p.m. And again, more information on our social media channels. So that's been a very, very quick tour of the type of projects that we get involved in. I'm conscious of the time. I would just like to say that if you are ever interested in getting involved in the Law Society or any task forces, the Younger Members Committee is a great place to start, because it does open up doors for you to build out your personal and professional network and to really have direct input into the profession going forward. And so at this stage, I hope to see future events, but I'll hand over to Anna.
Yeah, thanks very much, Brendan, for that, and really, really appreciate that. And I suppose if people don't necessarily want to join committees but have ideas of events that might be helpful for you, just qualifying or anything like that, as I said, reach out to Michelle Nolan. We want to hear your ideas. If there's more we can do, we're happy to help, And if anybody has any questions, we'll have them at the end. But if you want to start putting them into the chat function, we'll have a look and we'll deal with them at the end. So next, I'd like to introduce you to Anna. And Anna is a Saddlebury rep. She's also a trainee like yourselves, and she's involved with the Younger Members Committee. So Anna, full of us, welcome.
Hi, I'm sorry. Thanks, Avril, for the introduction. I recognised like a couple of names coming in, so I'm quite glad I can't actually see any of you and just the slides. So I'm just going to quickly fly through kind of my experience on the committee, how I got involved, what I've been doing, and what I've got out of it so far. If it's something that any of you would be interested in doing when you qualify. So in terms of my involvement, I joined by a little bit of a different route by being elected the SADSI auditor. So I think for you guys, that election would have happened in the early stage of your PPC I last year. I think Shannon, the ex-auditor, is on the call. And basically from being elected, there's kind of 2 hats to that role. So one of those is basically convening like the different debating competitions during PPC I, which is mostly the Irish Times. And then the other hat is being an observer member of the Young Members Committee. I mean, like so far from my experience, the main difference has just been in the name. I'm still as involved, and Avril and Brendan have been really keen for me to do and contribute like as much as everyone else. But in terms of the kind of alternative route in, like it's been mentioned, that's generally a written application with the most recent set of the other members joining in November. So I kind of started at the same time as them, which was nice in terms of having a couple of other people joining virtually. So since I've been involved, most of what I've been doing has been focusing on kind of promoting the visibility of the committee's work. So whether that's kind of helping pull together and curate the different submissions of the committee for the Gazette issues of the Law Society, or coordinating other contents. As Brendan has already mentioned, next week I'm going to be hosting the spring series session with Jerry Duffy. On top of that, there's also been a couple of like intercommittee social events. I'm a very proud owner of a box of USA biscuits after Christmas bingo. So that's really what's going to take you over the edge for taking part. But I mean, certainly so far, my experience of working with the other people on the committee has been really positive. They really want you to get involved. So I think particularly if you have a certain project in mind or anything you'd like to see change about the profession, particularly if that's relevant to the interests of younger members, and maybe, you know, how we've been affected kind of specifically over the last couple of months, or whether it's a year or something more specific, it would definitely be very welcome. So in terms of what I got out of it, then I kind of listed these 3 points, probably because I feel like for a lot of us, the last year has been quite challenging in how those matters have, sorry, I lose my word. So how those matters can kind of be developed. So I think particularly from like a networking experience, like we're all at quite a pivotal stage of our careers, and working remotely has meant that like a lot of that kind of rapport you just build from being in the office and then formally meeting people at events is kind of gone. I know I found, so I've just finished PPC I, and it was definitely more difficult to meet people you didn't already know or weren't in your tutorial group. So I think particularly if you want to kind of build out your network and get to know solicitors and other firms, particularly maybe of different like practice sizes or areas, it was a really good way to do that, and also kind of meet people who are a little bit more ahead of you in your career, even by a couple of years, to even from the sense of being able to give you like guidance or an idea of what your career would look like, but not so far ahead that they're unlikely to have not experienced the same paths or challenges that you might. In terms of skill development then as well, like a lot of what I've been doing, you know, particularly I think if you want to get some more experience in being able to lead projects, if you polish up on your public speaking, or doing any kind of liaising or getting a handle on how the Law Societies operates, or which avenues you want to be looking into to kind of affect change. I think particularly sometimes at this stage, we can feel like you're quite ineffectual or being a long way for being in a position to make that. So I think if that's something that would be important to you or something that you're interested in doing, this is a really good starting point. And then finally, what I mean kind of from ear to the ground is basically a sense of like a much more heightened awareness of what's happening in different firms, different practice sizes. I think I've definitely noticed over the last year, I kind of underestimated or didn't realize how much of that you just absorb by osmosis from being around other people all the time. It's definitely something that's hard to overcome virtually as well. So certainly if there's those 3 things, if there's any of those you kind of feel as something you want to kind of tap into a little bit more, this is a great way to start doing it. So I think in terms of getting involved, Michelle's contact details are on the next slide. So it's also the last slide. So I might just hand back over to Avril then for any questions or contact details.
Well, thanks very much, Anna. That was really good. And thanks for giving a good explanation and complimentary to our committee. Just to say that these slides are available on the general information page. So if you want to catch up on our sessions from last autumn, they might be relevant to you. And I just also want to mention that, you know, getting help from career support is open to you now as trainees. It isn't just as a qualified solicitor, like you can reach out for help with your CVs or anything you can think of. You know, career support is there, and they're there for you also, not just when you qualify. I just wanted to ask if anybody has, I'm going to stop sharing the screen. So I just wonder if anyone has any questions. No, there's no questions. Okay, perfect. So listen, thanks. I'm conscious you need to go to your next session. So I just want to thank everyone very much for coming today. I hope you learned something about the Law Society that you didn't know before, and that you come out a little bit excited to get involved. And as I said, you don't necessarily have to join. You can always email suggestions to the committees and their secretaries, you know, if you think there's something, and they will be listened to and they will be entertained. So you can do that. So thank you very much. So we're going to log off.